by sharing my screen with you, hopefully. Okay. And hopefully you can all see that. And we're going to start with a little slideshow here on establishing suits by roughing. And it's a topic I've covered a number of times before, and yet I find when declarers are playing, they often seem to have a blind spot for looking at hands that are very suitable for this. So I'm going to try and go over this again, and hopefully you'll start to see patterns with these kinds of hands. If you're watching this video on YouTube and you wish to join these online lessons I have, send me an email to that address on the screen and I'll add you to my list. So establishing suits by roughing, what are we talking about? Well, when you're in a situation where you're playing in a trump suit and you've got another long suit, very often you can establish that suit by roughing one or more times. And what you need to think about is what kind of distribution you expect, how the opponent's cards are likely to be divided, and therefore how many times you will need to rough in order to establish the suit. And you often need to think about whether you're going to rough high or low. And if you're not able to draw trumps first, it may be necessary to start by roughing low or roughing high if you can afford it. And very often you'll have to think about the entries you have. Do you have enough entries to establish a suit and then go to that suit and take the tricks in it? So those are the kinds of things you need to think about. And what we're going to look at are examples like this. So imagine you're playing, for example, in a spade contract, but you have this in a side suit in diamonds. You've got a singleton diamond opposite your ace, king, 8, 4, 3. And this is a suit where hopefully if you're able to rough the however many times you need to rough, you can avoid any losers. You can rough some diamonds and establish the rest of the cards. So what you need to think about is how many cards you have in this suit, which is 6, and how many do the opponents have, and how are they likely to be divided. So they have 7 cards, and you should try to cater for at least the more likely distribution. If you can cater to more extreme distributions, then so much the better, but at least try to cater for the most likely or the second most likely distribution. So here, the most likely distribution is that they're divided 4, 3. And I hope you can see if I just sort of put those cards along with my cards, I can see that I've got the ace and king are winners, but then I've got 2 losers, and the 5th card with this distribution should be a winner. So what I would say on this hand is I can establish this suit if I can rough twice. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do if I'm going to try to make as many tricks with this suit as possible. Now, the best way normally to do that will be to start off by cashing one high trick, the ace, but then immediately trying to rough. So don't cash the ace and king, but cash the ace and then a low diamond, then maybe get back to your hand and rough again. And if you play it that way, both roughs can be low. So even if you haven't drawn trump yet, you can establish a suit by roughing twice in dummy, and both roughs can be low as long as you start with just one high card, the ace. If you cash the ace and king first and then start roughing, then the second rough will have to be high unless you've drawn trump first. So we'll look at some examples of this in a moment, but try and think about the likely distribution. And the question I'll be asking you is how many times will you need to rough to establish different suit combinations? Here's another one where you've got the ace, king, queen, 5-3 opposite the 5-2. So we've got 7 cards here. And obviously the most favorable distribution will be that the missing cards divide 3-3. And in that case, all 5 diamonds will be good. However, that's not the most likely distribution. And if they were divided, say, 4-2, then we have a loser there. And similar to the last one, what we would do on this hand is to play the ace and king, take 2 tricks, and then before playing the queen, we would rough a low diamond. And if we get this distribution, the 4-2 distribution, that may have to be a high rough if you don't want to risk being over roughed. But once you've done one rough on there, the rest of your hearts will be good. So normally you would expect to be able to establish this suit by roughing once in dummy and not losing any diamond tricks there. And then let's have a look at a slight variant of this. Here we've got 5 diamonds in our hand and 2 in dummy. And again, if we think about the missing diamonds, if they were divided 3-3, you could see that you could establish a suit by roughing once, cash the ace king, rough once, and then the rest of your diamonds are good. But you should also be aiming to play in a way that succeeds if they divide 4-2. And in that case, you will have to rough twice in order to establish that suit. You'd play the ace king and then play a low diamond, and you'd have to perhaps rough that one high if you haven't drawn trumps, because someone's got just 2 diamonds, and if you rough low, where you had, if you could have roughed high, they would over rough. So that would generally be how you would play this combination: play the ace king, and then plan to rough 2 diamonds high in dummy if you can, and then your very last diamond would be good. So they rough twice in order to establish a suit. Let me know if you have any questions on any of those. We're going to look at some hands in a moment. So let me switch to that screen and let's see. Whoops, find the right screen. Okay, so let's look at some complete hands here and see if we can figure out the best line of play. So here's one where you've opened a spade, your partner bid 2 clubs, you rebid 2 diamonds. That should show 5 spades and 4 diamonds, and your partner bids 3 spades, which is sort of invitational. They've got some support for you, and you end up in 4 spades, and the opponents lead the jack of hearts. And I'd like you to have a think about this, have a think about how you're going to play this. And the first thing you're going to think about in a suit contract whenever you gain the lead is, should you draw trumps? And if you do draw trumps here, you can see it's going to take probably 3 rounds to draw the opponent's trumps. If you do, how many losers would you potentially be left with? And then the second part of this question is actually, what is your plan going to be on this hand? Are you going to perhaps cross rough the hand in roughing the hearts and clubs and the diamonds? Or are you going to just rough diamonds in dummy? Or are you going to just try to rough clubs in your hand? Or are you going to draw trumps first? So that's the first poll of the evening. And the question is, how many potential losers do you have if you start by drawing trumps? And what is your line of play going to be? You're going to try to make as many tricks as possible. And here comes that poll. And see what you make of that. You may need to scroll down to see the second part. Your responses. And for the first part, most of you have said 4, 56%, and 55% have gone for roughing diamonds in dummy with options for all the others, cross roughing, roughing clubs and hearts, or drawing trumps first. So let's do the first part. Well, if I were to draw trumps first, which I'm not going to, I would have these losers left. I assume I'm not going to lose any spades or any hearts because I've got the ace king opposite a doubleton. But I've got two diamond losers um, and two club losers. So yes, I agree with most of you who said you have potentially four losers, but I hope you can see that you can eliminate some of those by roughing the diamonds in dummy. And that's by far the best line. You can rough a heart or even try to rough clubs in your hands, but by doing so, you're not actually gaining any extra tricks. It's nearly always a good idea to rough in the hand with the shorter trumps and keep the hand with the long trumps for drawing the opponent's trumps. So this is how I would suggest you play it. Win the first trick, and then turn your attention to diamonds. And it's worth thinking about the diamond distribution. We've got 6 diamonds here, so the opponents have got 7, and I'm going to try to cater to at least a 4-3 distribution. So I'm going to have that distribution in the back of my mind. I'm going to play the diamonds first, take 2 rounds, and catering to a 4-3 distribution, I should be able to rough both these last 2 diamonds, but I should rough the first one low, okay, and keep the jack of spades so that I can rough the last one high. Now I want to get back to the south hand, and I'm going to do that by playing a heart and roughing a heart. That doesn't gain me any extra tricks. It just gets me back here so that I can now rough the last diamond, and I rough with the jack here so it can't get over roughed. And now I'll just play my spades, draw the last trump, and at the end I'm going to lose 2 clubs, but we'll make the 11 tricks there. When this hand was played, a lot of people made 10 tricks, but no one made 11. And it's not a difficult hand, but you get a top score if you're able to rough 2 diamonds in dummy. And you can see with the 4-3 split in diamonds, you can rough the first one low and the second one with a jack. Let me know if you have any questions on that. Let's try another one. Here, there's some interesting bidding. You open with a spade here, double from west, and north your partner passes. East bids 2 clubs, but you bid your second suit, 2 hearts. West supports clubs, and it goes pass, pass, back to you. Now, you could let them play it in 3 clubs, but you have good distribution here. So let's suppose you bid 3 hearts, and your partner now puts you back into spades, 3 spades, and that ends the contract. So let's have a look at it, and we can see the opponent's lead a club, and we can have a look at our potential losers on this hand. We're clearly going to lose a club and 2 diamonds. Hopefully we won't lose any trump, and the key to this hand is not losing any heart tricks. So have a think about your heart situation. You've got 7 hearts. How many have the opponents got? How are they likely to be divided? And if they are divided in the most likely way, how many times will you have to rough hearts in order to establish the suit? And are you going to rough high or low? So let's suppose they play a second round of clubs, which you rough. And now you're going to turn your attention to hearts because you want to rough some hearts in dummy. And you're going to cash the ace and king of hearts. There's not much choice about that. And then you're going to play hearts. And the question is, how many times will you have to rough hearts in order to avoid your heart losers? And are you going to rough high or low? Here's the second pole. Let's have a look at the results. And the most popular response is twice, one high and one low, 51%, followed by twice both high, and some people have said once or three times. Well, let's switch back and see what we make of it. Let's go back one card before we start on the hearts. Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hearts. The opponents have got 6, and we should cater to a 4-2 distribution. That's the most likely. That's more likely than a 3-3. So you're going to play this way, catering to a 4-2 distribution. If it turns out they were 3-3, it will still work. You'll still make the same number of tricks. But I hope you can see that if they are divided 4-2, you're going to ruff twice, but both of those ruffs will be high because someone may just have a two-card suit if they divide 4-2. Let me just bring up the four hands as I play this. And you can see that East has got, we do have that 4-2 distribution. So all we're going to do is play the ace and the king. And now we're going to play another heart. And we're not going to take any chance here. We can afford to ruff high with the 10. Otherwise, it would have got over ruffed. Now what? We want to get back to our hand so that we can do another ruff. So you might do that with a club ruff. Again, you're not gaining any extra tricks, you're just getting back to your hand so that you can now lead your next heart, and of course you ruff that one high as well. So you ruff both of those high, and now you can just draw trumps, and as long as they divide normally, you'll make all the trumps, and your last heart is good as well. That was the idea of ruffing twice, so that the 8 of hearts is your 10th trick. You'll lose the last 2 tricks, but you'll make 10 tricks on that one. And if you think about it, you avoided your heart losers by ruffing twice on that one. And those ruffs had to be high there. Let's try another one. And actually, this is the one that I sent out at the weekend. And the question is, on this one, what's the best way to play this? You open a spade, your partner bids 2 clubs, you bid 2 diamonds, again they bid 3 spades, and you end up in 4 spades here. And you need to think about how you're going to play that. In particular, we have potential for tricks in diamonds. And the question is, how are you going to play the diamonds to avoid any diamond losers? How many times will you have to ruff? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 diamonds. So we want to cater to a 4-3 split. And what that means is that we will have to ruff twice. So to start off with, they play the ace, and we've actually got the ace king of clubs opposite a singleton, so we may well decide to cash the king, getting rid of that heart loser. And then before we draw trumps, we're going to turn our attention to diamonds, playing the ace of diamonds. And a lot of people go wrong at this point because they then try to cash the king of diamonds as well. But that's a mistake because it will mean you're likely to get over-ruffed. You have no high trumps in dummy, but you should be able to ruff twice with low trumps as long as you don't try to cash the king of diamonds. So if I just bring up the 4 hands as I play this, I'm going to ruff a diamond, ruffing that low. I need to come back to my hand, which I can afford to do with a spade because I only want to ruff one more time. So I ruff that last the 4 of diamonds in dummy. And now you can see the rest of my diamonds are good. So what I'm going to do now is just get back to my hand, draw the last trump, and my last two diamonds are good. So played that way, as I said, it's actually possible to make 13 tricks on this hand if you avoid those two diamond losers by roughing them. But you mustn't cash the ace king of diamonds or you get over roughed when you try to rough the last diamond. Do interrupt me if you've got any questions on this. And let's have a look at one more. Here we've got, we bid one spade, two clubs, two diamonds, two hearts. And my partner jumps to three spades, so we end up in four spades. And the opponents lead the king of clubs. And so I'm just going to mute people there. A bit of background noise. And let's have a look at our potential here. Well, we've got here a side suit, but this time the long suit is in dummy. And I hope you can see that dummy diamonds, if we could set those up, that would be a great source of tricks. So what we're going to do here is aim to establish a diamond suit by roughing. And I hope you can see with 8 diamonds we have, the missing diamonds are dividing 3-2, probably. And if that's the case, we can establish a suit by roughing once. And that's by far the best line on this hand, much better than trying to rough hearts, is to set up the long suit. So do look out for these patterns. This is how we're going to play it. We're going to win that first one. And we're not going to draw trumps right away, at least not all of them, but we're going to try and keep the ace of spades in dummy so that we can, because we need that as an entry to a diamond. So you can start by drawing trumps with the king. So we draw one round, play the queen. That's a second round gone. So there's one trump still out. But before we draw it, we'll need to keep that ace of spades as an entry. So now we're going to turn our attention to diamonds. And we're hoping for a 3-2 break. And if that is the case, then we can play a third round of diamonds. This one, of course, we're going to rough high, or it would risk being over roughed. And now our diamonds are established, and we can cross over with the ace of spades and rattle off the last 3 diamonds, throwing away most of our losers there. At the end, I think we're just left with one loser, but we should make 12 tricks on this one. Once again, when this hand was played, I think one person made 12 tricks, and some people even went down in 4 spades. So again, this time, similar to what I've been looking at, but this time the long suit is in dummy. And finally, let's have a look at this one, where we open a diamond, partner bids a heart, we bid a spade, but they go to 4 no trump, blackwood. We show our 2 aces, and we end up being declarer in 6 spades, and the opponents lead a club. And we can see my partner's got a fabulous hand over there. And when you are in the situation that here the north hand is much stronger than yours, you may find it easier to look at the hand from the point of view of the north hand here, because it's much stronger, and I think it's much easier to look at your potential losers there. So if I look at my losers from the point of view of the north hand, I can see I've got no trumps to lose, I've got no diamonds to lose, and I've got no clubs to lose. The only potential losers I have are in hearts. And what I'm hoping to do here is avoid the heart losers by roughing them in my own hand. And what I'd like you to do is think about how many hearts you have, think about the missing hearts and how they're likely to be divided. And the final poll of the evening is how many times will you have to rough hearts in order to avoid any heart losers? And are you going to ruff again high or low or a combination? So have a think about it. You need to count up your hearts, think about how the opponent's hearts might be divided, and how many times do you expect to have to ruff hearts in order to establish the suit so you don't lose any heart tricks. So here's the last poll of the evening. Have a look at the results. And the most popular response is twice, once high and once low, with responses for all the other options as well. And let's work it out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hearts. So the opponents have got 6. And we should cater to either a 3-3 distribution or more likely a 4-2 distribution. And if you imagine someone there with 4 hearts, I hope you can see you're going to have to ruff twice. And if you can ruff twice and avoid being over ruffed, all your hearts will be good after that. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to, again, cater to that 4-2 distribution. So we're not going to draw trumps right away. We'll win the first trick, play a heart, and then play a low heart. Because we want to ruff twice, we would love to ruff twice high in the south hand, but you've only got one high trump, the ace. So we're going to ruff the first one low, and then we want to get back to our hand so that we can ruff another heart. So we might do that with a trump, because we only want to ruff one more time. And now ruff the 5, and of course ruff this one with the ace. And once you've done that, your hearts are now established. And all you now need to do is draw the remaining trump. You get a slightly bad trump break, but the rest of your hearts are good. You can cash those, and you've got 13 tricks there by ruffing 2 hearts. And you can see you've got a 4-2 distribution there. What a lot of people do when they have a hand like this, they start off with the ace of hearts, but then they play the king of hearts, and it doesn't work out as well. So you can indeed play that way, but now when you play another heart, you can see that if you were to ruff low here, it would get over ruffed because you drew that extra round of hearts. So you can actually ruff high here, but you'll be left with one heart loser at the end. So you might draw some trump here, but at some point you'll play a heart. You can ruff that, but you're in danger of being over ruffed there. And you'll do reasonably well on that. You'll make, I think, 12 tricks on this hand, but you have the potential to make all the tricks and probably get a very good score if you don't lose any heart tricks by ruffing twice. So do look out for these patterns especially where you have a long side suit. Think, can I establish that suit by ruffing? How many times will I need to ruff? And will I be able to ruff low, or should I think about ruffing high to avoid being over ruffed? That ends the talk now. I hope you found that interesting. And the game is starting at 7:30. I'll just stop sharing my screen with you. Yeah.
Could I ask one question? The penultimate hand,
Yeah.
the one before that one, you played the ace straight away.
Yeah.
Was that just to keep control of things? You didn't want to hold up for the first round to avoid the clubs?
This one? No. Or this one?
The one back, that one.
Yeah. So say again what your comment was.
I wasn't sure whether or not to take the ace or let them win, because they're going to play the queen next.
Oh yeah. Well, so I mean, if this were a no trump contract, you might think about holding up. There's not generally the same desire to hold up in a suit contract. I have one potential club loser, but I'm actually planning to discard it on the diamonds.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't. I was hoping. I mean, I don't think I can't discard all my heart and the clubs, but there's no point holding up there. Just take your just take your ace, and then as it turns out here, by setting up the diamonds, you can probably discard the club.
Keep control. Yeah. Thank you very much.